Today's big topic: when is compost finished? Ultimately, it all depends. I know it's not the best answer, but here's a couple things to take into consideration that'll help you determine if compost is finished. First of all, what does it look like? Can you recognize anything in your compost, or does it look to be pretty grainy and unrecognizable? What does it smell like? Does it smell like earth, forest floor, or does it smell kind of pungent still? Obviously, that's a big factor. Another thing would be, what does it taste like? Just kidding. So, coming back to it, it really comes back to how does it look and how does it smell? And ultimately, just is it coming from your compost that's still hot, or is your pile seem rather dead and back to normal ambient temperature? Are you going to use the end result for growing plants, or are you just going to be using it as top dressing? These are obviously different factors because top dressing wouldn't be as critical that you have super fine, finished, perfect compost. But maybe it would, see? Because it all depends, like how you want things to look, how you want things to be. But anyway, I have a couple different types of samples here. I have vermicompost from my worm system. I have some compost out of my compost tumbler. Then I have some from the same tumbler that I ran through a sifter. And then I have compost from a commercial composting facility. And that obviously had been left out in the sun for a while, so it looks a lot different than the other stuff. So let's take a look and see how it all is. So first up we have the vermicompost, the castings. Main observation I have about these is that they are definitely a bit slimier than the rest of my stuff. And just kind of going through it, it's obviously different because there's no real plant matter in here. It's just pure castings. The only other observation is like here you can see there's a little bit of cardboard on there, like a tiny little piece. And I would imagine I'm going to find that throughout this, but like here's one. So I'll take this out. But other than that, I would use this. I would definitely use this stuff. It's nice and gooey. I'm sure it's full of nutrients, and worm castings do really well. So I would certainly go with this. So yeah, I don't have a problem with this one at all. Next up we have compost from my tumbler. You can see that there's hair in this, and that's not surprising because hair takes forever to break down, but whatever. It's just hair. This stuff, the particle size is definitely a lot bigger than the castings. Even though the castings are wet, so they're clumpy and appear to be bigger, they're definitely not. This stuff is actually just bigger pieces. But then we have to take into consideration that I used a lot of leaves in here. That's like a major ingredient of mine, so you're going to find stuff like this. So taking stuff like that out, I think the rest of this is also fine. So to me, this is essentially finished. Sure, it could probably be a little bit crumblier or whatever, but at the same time, this seems totally crumbly to me, so whatever. Another thing to keep in mind, too, is when you're planting stuff, it's not like you're just using all compost. You're mixing it with other soil, so it's not like whatever this is what your climate or your environment is for the plant. It's a mixture of things, so big deal. So here, I'm also happy with the compost tumbler results as well. With this one, this is the commercial compost, and this stuff is definitely the finest of all, and I believe this was their finest screened compost. I know it had been sitting out in the sun for a while based on when I went to go scoop the stuff, so I'd be surprised if the microbial or content was the same as the other stuff, but I'm sure it's totally fine. It's clearly broken down well enough. There's no doubt about it. You're dealing with really huge windrows and piles of this stuff, and it also smells super good. So, and not to mention that the castings also smell good. The tumbler stuff doesn't really have that much of an interesting smell, but this stuff just smells awesome. So this is the most earthy smelling. So there you go. And then lastly, I decided to throw in some dirt from just to the left of my compost tumbler, because when my tumbler filled up, all I do is dig a hole and then just throw food scraps in it until I'm ready to make a new tumbler load or add to my worm setup or whatever. So I have this, and this is clearly going to be crumbly, but it's funny because you don't really know what it is. You don't know if this is just purely soil that's been here forever, or more likely that it actually has content in it from the food scraps and such that I had buried there for essentially years. Because I didn't have a tumbler when I first got here, so I was just burying my scraps and not thinking about it for quite some time. So here you can see that I guess there's not too much of a difference between this and the commercial compost, except the commercial compost is definitely blacker. So to me that would indicate a bit more quality, and obviously it smells a lot better. But I guess in conclusion, maybe it doesn't even seem like there's that much of a difference between all the different types. And that's okay. And again, it comes back to the question that I'm not sure is ever answered, and really, when is your compost finished? To me, it's just as simple as you take it out of your compost project when the pile is back to ambient temperature and you can't recognize anything in it anymore. And that's essentially it as far as I'm concerned. So really, it's up to you. And if you have any questions about this stuff, obviously feel free to get in touch and hit the like button below and check out my site, crazyaboutcompost.com. And I'm definitely going to use this compost to start a new experiment. I think it'll be Clash of the Compost Volume 2. If you haven't seen the first one, click on the link now. And happy composting. Keep it dirty and keep watching my videos. I'll have a lot more this time of year. All right, later.